Christina Hall has had quite the journey in the years since she first appeared on TV screens. There have been plenty of ups and downs you may not know about, including 3 husbands, 3 kids, and an autoimmune disease. Back in 2013, Christina Hall and then-husband Tarek El-Moussa were on top of the world. They'd taken their successful house-flipping enterprise to HGTV, leading to Flip or Flop becoming one of the network's most popular shows, and recently welcomed their first child. Their newfound HGTV fame opened up a whole world of opportunities for them. But during the show's first season, a viewer, a registered nurse, saw an unusual lump on El-Moussa's neck and reached out to the show urging him to have it checked out. He did and underwent a surgical procedure to remove it, which didn't go as planned. Speaking to People, El-Moussa recalled, "When I woke up, my wife was crying, and the first thing I asked was, 'It's cancer, isn't it?' And she said, 'Yeah.'"
And he said, "It's cancer, and it spread to his lymph nodes." And I literally just fell on the floor crying.
Hall was blindsided by the diagnosis as she confronted her then-husband's mortality. She shared with Today, "I was just feeling totally overwhelmed about losing him having to go through treatments, our daughter." What the El-Moussas didn't reveal at the time was that he'd also received a second diagnosis of testicular cancer. The dual diagnoses, along with everything else going on in their lives, added extra stress to their marriage.
It just kind of started pushing us apart from each other.
After the birth of daughter Taylor in 2010, Christina Hall barely had time to catch her breath. And after a 4-week break, she went right back to work, admitting to People, "It was too soon for me. The tension between me and Tarek was high." While El-Moussa underwent cancer treatment, Hall wanted to have another child. Because her first pregnancy had been high risk, the couple embarked on a course of in vitro fertilization. The first attempt failed, but on the second, she was elated to discover she was pregnant. Her happiness was short-lived, however. Hall suffered a miscarriage at 8 weeks. But she didn't give up, and her third IVF treatment once again resulted in pregnancy. She was instructed to take special precautions, explaining to People, "I had to be really strict. I had to do 1 full week in bed. For 13 weeks after that, I couldn't go for a walk and couldn't lift anything over a gallon of milk." Her anxiety about the possibility of another miscarriage was understandably high. Thankfully, the couple's second child, son Braden, arrived safe and sound, delivered via emergency C-section. While El-Moussa battled cancer and Hall struggled to have a second baby, the popularity of their HGTV hit continued to soar. But when they weren't on camera renovating homes, their marriage was coming apart at the seams. Hall told People, "We weren't able to properly communicate anymore. It got to the point where we weren't even driving to set together."
So are you gonna let me talk or should I just stand here?
Hall admitted that in hindsight, the relationship had already ended before they took steps to divorce, sharing, "I think the separation process begins long before people actually separate, so by the time we officially did, I felt like a weight was lifted off me." The first public inkling of trouble in Hall and El-Moussa's marriage came in 2016, when police were sent to the couple's home after a disturbing 911 call that involved a gun and fears of an attempted suicide.
It took 11 deputies and a police helicopter to restore calm to the couple's home in Orange County.
The situation was peacefully resolved, although TMZ reported that officers seized 5 guns from the home, including an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. About 6 months later, the couple issued a statement to Us Weekly reading, "Like many couples, we have had challenges in our marriage." This statement characterized the police incident as an unfortunate misunderstanding and pointed out that there had been no violence and no charges were filed.
It's so hard to explain, people that are suffering with mental health issues, you can't control it. It's almost like it's out of your hand.
As El-Moussa wrote in his 2024 memoir, Flip Your Life, How to Find Opportunity in Distress in Real Estate, Business, and Life, they had a fight and he left the house carrying a pistol. Fearing the worst, Hall called 911. However, El-Moussa insisted he simply wanted to clear his head with a hike and brought the weapon in case he encountered bobcats or mountain lions. When police arrived, he was placed in handcuffs. El-Moussa wrote, "That was the very last time we were together as a family, with Christina walking down the driveway crying and me sitting there in handcuffs asking myself, what in the world is going on?" Taylor El-Moussa, the eldest child of Christina Hall and Tarek El-Moussa, was devastated by her parents' divorce and begged them to reunite. As Hall recalled in an interview with People, "We had to explain that sometimes couples get divorced, but that she and Braden are our #1 priority. We'll always be a family." To help Taylor deal with the split, they placed her in therapy. According to Hall, it appeared to be going well until she made a declaration to her mother. Hall confided the story to Good Housekeeping, saying, "One day I was driving her to an appointment. She said, 'I don't need to go to therapy anymore. I think you and Daddy are happier apart, and I don't really need to talk about it anymore.' She's very open and honest with her feelings, but still I was like, wow, that's a big comment for a 6-year-old. After Hall and El Moussa decided to divorce, the fate of Flipper Flop was uncertain, but the exes felt it would be foolish to discard what they'd worked so hard to build. El Moussa told House Beautiful, to just throw everything away, it wasn't worth it. The way Hall viewed it, working together on the show was an extension of co-parenting their children. While the exes typically presented a united front, insisting they'd worked out their differences, that hasn't always been the case. In 2021, according to TMZ, El Moussa became enraged when Hall indicated that she and the crew were ready to start shooting, leading him to verbally berate her. In addition to allegedly calling her a washed-up loser, El Moussa also supposedly said, "Look at me, look at me, look at me. It's called winning. The world knows you're crazy."
That is what I think, and I'm always right.
In March 2022, El Moussa announced that the season's upcoming episodes, which would have been filmed around the time of the alleged incident, would be the series' last. Hall and El Moussa's divorce was finalized in January 2018. Earlier that month, Hall revealed that she and TV host Ant Anstead were officially a couple, and they tied the knot by the end of the year. Just a few months later, in March 2019, they announced they were expecting their first child together, with son Hudson arriving that September. 3 months later, they celebrated their first wedding anniversary.
I met Ant through a mutual friend, and it was basically love at first sight.
They never made it to their second. In September 2020, the couple announced they were going their separate ways. In a since-deleted Instagram post, Hall wrote, "Ant and I have made the difficult decision to separate." Soon after, Hall posted another lengthy message in which she reintroduced herself to her followers, writing, "I never thought I would have one divorce, let alone 2. I never thought I would have 2 baby daddies, but sometimes life throws us curveballs." Anstead also weighed in on Instagram, writing, "I have remained silent while holding on to hope. I never gave up on us. I pray Christina's decision brings her happiness." Having followed her whirlwind wedding with an equally rapid breakup, it wasn't long before Hall and Anstead found themselves facing off in a courtroom over custody of their infant son Hudson. In April 2022, Anstead filed for sole custody of Hudson and made a number of harsh claims about his ex-wife's character. The filing was denied the same day, but the fight wasn't over. A month later, Anstead claimed Hall was using Hudson as a puppet on social media. But when Anstead posted a video of Hudson kicking a soccer ball, a commenter called him out, writing, "I thought you didn't want your son to be exploited on social media." Anstead couldn't resist clapping back, insisting that his intent in posting about his son was very different from that of his ex, writing, "Being a puppet used for commercial gain and being made to perform makes my stomach sick." The implication that Hall was exploiting their son was clear. A few months later, Hall issued an Instagram post declaring she would no longer be featuring Hudson in her feed, explaining, "I am mentally exhausted over the recent false accusations against me. Hudson's father has made attempts to turn my family, friends, and fans against me through manipulation tactics and false information." The two settled their custody dispute in December 2022. In a now-deleted 2020 Instagram post, Hall revealed she'd been diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease, an autoimmune disorder in which the body's immune system attacks the thyroid. She later spoke with people about coping with the illness, as well as some of her other health challenges, sharing, "5 years ago, I didn't feel great. I'd have brain fog or constantly feel like I was in fight-or-flight mode, but I just thought, well, I'm stressed, so this is how I should feel." Hall subsequently took to Instagram to reveal she'd been feeling run down and detailed a litany of symptoms, writing, "Some of my issues include inflammation, autoimmune issues, Hashimoto's disease, PCOS, Raynaud's syndrome, unexplained skin rashes, joint and muscle pain, dry eyes, GI issues, SIBO, acid reflux, brain fog, hormone imbalances, swollen lymph nodes, and adrenal fatigue." At first, she wondered if her symptoms could potentially be caused by her breast implants. She later shared a series of posts on Instagram stories explaining she'd undergone extensive testing that revealed she had lead and mercury poisoning, as well as excessive bacteria in her small intestine, and offered her own theory, writing, "Most likely from all the gross houses I've been in, all the bad flips."
This is seriously disgusting.
It smells horrific in here.
OMG, I'm gonna have to throw away my shoes.
There's no question that Hall has had her ups and downs with her first ex-husband. However, tensions appeared to increase after he married Heather Rae Young, a star of Netflix real estate reality hit Selling Sunset. The stress was evident in May 2022 when the Daily Mail published a series of photos in which El Moussa was seen apparently grabbing his second wife by the arm, seemingly pulling her away from an angry confrontation with Hall, who was accompanied by her third husband, Joshua Hall. While it was unclear what the apparent dispute was about, the incident took place while they were all attending Braden El Moussa's soccer game, and a soccer coach was apparently involved. A joint statement issued to Page Six on behalf of El Moussa and Hall attempted to quell suspicions of acrimony between El Moussa's first and second wives. The statement read, "A personal matter was discussed and has since been resolved. We are focused on co-parenting as a team moving forward." Christina Hall has been no stranger to controversy over the years, and that was never more clear than in the first month of 2024. In an Instagram post, she confronted a rumor that was being spread about her by a former employee. Hall wrote, "Recently, a coworker of mine told me a former employer told him I refused to work with women because I was some sort of, not sure what the word is because I don't identify with whatever it is." Hall continued by shutting the entire notion down and emphatically writing, "I've always worked with females, so that's a load of and highly offensive." Hall encouraged anyone who didn't believe her to speak with the people she was then working with on her HGTV show Christina on the Coast, many of whom are women. Hall clarified, "My current Christina on the Coast team is the most fun and on point it's ever been, and I see a lot of females here." She went on to float the idea that her critics were attacking her because of their own issues, not hers, concluding with, "So to those who love to throw stones, that's just your own internal struggle."